What's going on, guys? Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition. It dropped last week. 30 minutes of new footage. So what's new? What's changed? Is it a better movie? We're gonna find out today, and we got a couple of cool dudes to talk about it with. First off, you know this guy. He's the Movie Fights champion and the host of Summer Movie Report. What's up, Dan Merle? And, I want to thank him for returning to the show. He's an actor, a writer, co-host of Marvel Movie News, Coy Jandreau. First off, this cut of the movie is rated R now, as opposed to PG-13.
It is. It's not a hard R.
Okay.
It's not a hard R. They add in, you got a little extra blood. You got an F-bomb.
Yep, like one in there.
You got a bat butt.
Uh-huh.
A little Affleck
Okay.
butt. It's R, but it doesn't change the tone of the movie.
Does Superman drop an F-bomb?
Superman does not drop an
Unfortunately
F-bomb.
not.
So let's start talking about some of the individual elements, the moments in the movie. Africa. Lois Lane is in Africa. That scene with Superman. There's some new information divulged in that scene.
Well,
scene
there's
is information.
exactly no. In the theatrical cut, that's kind of just used as an inciting incident.
Yeah.
Now it's like there's a plot.
Gotcha.
Right, because it seemed like Superman was being framed for shooting people in
Which
the
he
theatrical
doesn't
cut.
have
Which,
guns.
why would Superman shoot people?
Yeah.
Here, it makes it very, very evident what happened. That Lex's security forces burned the bodies that they shot to make it appear that Superman came through
Framed
with
them
the
with
heat vision, and that he was kind of acting as a vigilante loner, stepping into government affairs. It absolutely does fill in.
It felt more
that-
intentional
that
and
plot.
less like, oh, this worked out. Superman's the bad guy. It felt
Yeah.
more like he planned it instead of him ending up being the bad guy.
Yeah.
I want to get more to Lex Luthor's plan in a moment, but back to the Africa scene.
Yeah.
We meet one of a classic comic book character in
Only
that
had his
scene.
own title for 20 years and then got shot in the face. In
Yeah.
the comics, Jimmy Olsen is the most important male character besides Superman and Superman, I would say. I would say he's the most important.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen.
He had 20 years of comics, like his own run, and then he's also been in all 70 years of Superman lore, and they shoot him in the face in 2 minutes.
This is kind of another example and kind of cements through this ultimate cut that Zack Snyder is not beholden to.
Any sort of canon. Like,
Canon
he
lore,
can create
yeah.
his own mythology, and he has, because he killed Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen gets shot in the face.
Wow. Okay, so let's pivot back to Lex Luthor's plan, Jesse Eisenberg. Does it make more sense? Do we feel like the pieces, the machinations are in place?
I don't think it fully makes sense, but I think it leads itself to think it makes more sense.
Yeah,
See what I mean?
I
It
think
leans
that,
into it better.
Starting to follow you there.
well, I think what Coy's getting at is that Lex Luthor's plan is so sprawling throughout this film.
Yeah.
And what the ultimate cut does is you see even more of it. So, for example, you see that Lex invited Clark Kent to the charity ball to meet Bruce Wayne. He
Right.
basically orchestrated that meeting.
Okay, so you lead me to one of the pieces of the plan. Does it feel more motivated, that battle between Batman and Superman? Do we feel like, they have more of a reason to square off?
One of the things we were talking about is that you do, but it is still negated by the third act reveal of stealing the mother. Like, both sides have plenty of reason to fight. Both sides have been set up to fight for a thing that ties into their own belief system, but then they negate that entirely because all they had to do was steal his mom.
There's several minutes added of Clark Kent being a reporter. You see him investigate the Batman, and you see him meeting the families of the people that Batman has been branding, and you see him kind of turning against him a little bit because he's seeing that he is a vigilante.
And you also see that in prison, the people that get the brand get killed.
Again, what you find out, and it's more of Lex Luthor's plan, is that Lex has been hiring prisoners to kill anyone with that Bat brand in
So it makes
prison.
Batman look much more of a bad guy to Superman.
Right. It makes him look like that he is branding these criminals because he knows that they will be killed in
So that's interesting. So Lex is more of a puppet master when it comes to this scheme.
Yes, he talks about getting out from under the shadow of his father, that he's kept the study exactly the same because, maybe that'll make his dad come back. And it's much more of this kind of, you see a little bit why he's so eccentric, because he's just this... He's
Broken
been
boy.
Broken. He's broken.
Does he put more candy in anyone's mouth?
No, but he still
It's
does
implied.
put candy into the... They still put the Jolly Rancher in the mouth.
I love how memorable that was for everyone.
So speaking of Lex, there's a scene with who most people are saying is Steppenwolf, a character that has been more or less confirmed as the main Justice League big bad.
This is the scene that dropped the week after Batman v Superman was released in the theaters.
And it felt strange in the film to me. Did it to you? All of a sudden we have this experience where he stumbles onto this thing and you're like, this feels important, and then it's gone.
It's the most blatant example of, I think, world building that they did. I mean, even more than the Justice League stuff. You know, I mean, the Justice League stuff you get because it's called Dawn of Justice. You have to set up the Justice League.
Did the dream sequence with the Darkseid logo and the futuristic moment of Batman and Superman, did that feel more organic? Did that feel more earned? Or
Well, they did some stuff inside of it.
Yeah, it was a
which
little
was
longer.
they made it clear that the troops that Batman was fighting were his, and that he was double-crossed.
Right, by his people, because like, one of the men says he's sorry, and then...
wow,
So that's
okay.
a totally different plot point altogether.
And it sets up, like, that...
The idea of the manipulation from Superman's side, it sets up Batman's paranoia more, it sets up the idea that Batman doesn't know who he can trust. There's a lot to it with that slight reveal.
And another character that was talked about but was not in the final cut, Jenna Malone's character. So she's in the Ultimate Edition. Tell us
Not
about
Robin.
that.
She's a lab technician. Her name's Janet Clyburn, who I think is a minor character from the comic books.
Yeah.
And she basically, when they cut the Africa storyline down, way down, they had to cut her scenes because they were all in relation to Lois's investigation of Africa.
Right.
So when that went away, she had to go away. But then it created this whole aura of
giant,
mystery.
and this giant paradox of like why she wasn't there, but also the most important thing to me was that she says a very important thing to the film that was a giant plot point that people got upset about. The explosive device in the chair was lead lined.
Okay.
So Superman wouldn't have been able to see it because it was lined with lead.
Wow.
And she says that, but since they had to cut her earlier scene, it wouldn't make sense for her to just pop in and say it. So by cutting her, it created this giant whirlwind plot hole.
Two things in that Washington testimony scene. He should have said, there's a bomb in that wheelchair, and he should have said, don't drink that peach tea.
Man, that is piss.
Yeah.
In the theatrical cut, the Capitol explodes, and Superman looks at Lois Lane and just flies away. And people are going like, what the f***, Superman? Like, there's a lot of people injured. And in this one, the scene begins with Superman flying down. He has an injured person with him. He gives it to a firefighter. And he says, like, here, and he's trying to help, and the firefighter says, you know, the person's died, and he's like, helpless.
He feels like he's in the way, and he feels to blame already, and then he looks around, there's body bags. That whole scene has much more emotional content because you're caring.
Right. Do we feel like this gives Superman a little bit more compassion and that kind of, well, he's not a human, but that humanity
Exactly.
that we want in our Superman?
It helped. There's a scene where he calls his mom and talks to her a little bit.
And it's like really late and she's worried, and then he just says like, hi.
In a movie as complex as Batman v Superman, when you need to make a cut, the first thing you're going to cut are character beats because they're superfluous to the plot, supposedly. When you have 30 minutes of them gone, that's when
It adds up to a very confusing film.
Yeah. It adds up to a lot. Yeah.
One of my absolute favorite things about the movie, where I thought, ooh, they nailed this in some moments, was the actual fight, the action in the movie. Yeah. There were some kick-ass moments. How's the action in this version? Is it improved? Is it different?
That's the one thing they didn't really cut. Yeah.
Okay. I think they knew they had that right and they couldn't get rid of any, so they kept it all.
There's more arm snapping. There's some more blood. Sprays and
it's a little more violent.
It probably would have pushed the edge of a PG-13.
Yeah.
It's not gory. People aren't just drenched in blood. There's not guts hanging out, but it's a little more violent.
All right, talk to me about the Martha moment. Did that resonate more?
The Martha moment's still there.
Mm-hmm. I think Diane Lane having more scenes helped. You care about Martha. Whether or not that helped the Martha moment, it's still subjective of how you feel about it.
Are there any other moments or tidbits that weren't in the first that we've left out?
There's one little thing that leaves a door open.
That I loved.
When Batman confronts Lex Luthor at the end of the movie, he says, there are places that take care of the mentally ill. You're not going to one of these places. I've arranged that you're going to get transferred to Arkham Asylum. I still have some friends there. And so it sets up that Lex is going to Arkham.
Which is brilliant world building, and it's subtle, and it shows how long Batman's been Batman, and also, because he clearly has control of the prisons, because we saw that, so it's great that Batman's putting him in a place where he has control.
This opens up Lex being in Suicide Squad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Because there's no way they're avoiding Arkham and Suicide Squad. It gives us a Lex Luthor that can be the Emperor Palpatine of this Snyderverse. You can have him behind the scenes, toying.
Yeah, I like that comparison.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if Disney will like that comparison. So, let's kind of bottom line it here. Mm-hmm. If you love the movie, what's it going to do for you? If you weren't a fan, will it make you a fan?
If you love the movie, I think you'll like it more. if you didn't like the movie, this solves some problems, but it doesn't solve a lot of the core problems people had with it. It just clarifies things.
If you're a fan of Snyder's Superman, you'll love this. And if you're not, it won't change that.
Gotcha. Guys, thank you for unpacking that. Have you seen the Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition? Are you looking forward to it? What do you think about that scene with Jesse Eisenberg putting a piece of candy in a guy's mouth? Let us know in the comment section below. I want to thank a couple of swell fellows for being here. Dan Merle, thanks for coming across the hall.
Anytime.
Coy Jandro, great having you back.
Thanks, man.
And I want to thank you for watching. I'm Hal Rudnick. Hit me up on Twitter. Bye-bye. Batman and Wonder Woman recruiting metahumans. Just give us a quick description. What is a metahuman?
It's a superhero. For a couple of years, Marvel and DC had tried to own the trademark of the word superhero. So metahuman was a term that was in used when there was the debate over the trademark.
Yeah, it's one of those words that it really just means that these are people who have abilities. That's all.